Okay, so finally, the part about hard to get to know and reserve can be a barrier for close relations. Um, I guess what I would say to that, to all the non-ISFP types out there, is give us a chance, because it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. I really think, and maybe the course of this discussion and me, I don't know, talking about myself and all these things, maybe it'll help somebody if they hear this in terms of the composer they know in their life. Um, Maybe you know somebody, and if you feel that way, you feel like, I don't know how to get to know them, and I'm never going to be close to them because they don't want to let me in. Maybe I've given you a few clues, I hope, to maybe how you can actually get to know them better. Because I talked about this way back in the beginning, that, I don't claim to speak for all composers and all artisans, all SPs certainly, because I can't, that would be silly, but I can say that as a person who demonstrates a lot of these things that are in the book and on the page very well, so I kind of fit the mold of this description in a lot of ways. So I feel like, if it applies to me, it may apply to a lot more people, in terms of that we're really not sitting here saying, well, I really don't want anyone to get to know me, and I don't want to be close to anyone. For me personally, that couldn't be further from the truth. I enjoy talking about myself. I enjoy getting to know people, and people getting to know me, and being close with people. The reason I don't do it more is this whole, topic is about what's instinctual and what you have to work at. And as I mentioned a long time ago in one of the earlier parts, meeting people and getting to know people is hard for me. It doesn't mean that I don't want to. It means that it does not come naturally to me. When I go out, I leave my apartment, I get in the car, I drive somewhere, let's say it's to get some food. I go in, I get the food, I leave, I come back home, I eat the food, or I eat the food there, wherever, whatever it is I'm doing. And if I'm by myself, probably the only time I talk is when I'm placing an order for the food. And sometimes I might encounter somebody who, the employee of whatever restaurant is one of those people who start asking questions, small talk type of things. Most of the time, I'll respond to that, but I'm not going to initiate those things. And you could say, well, you could do that, and you're right, I could, but it's not something that really usually comes to me to do. It's not my natural behavior to, start conversations with strangers or, anything like that. And so that, because of that, because you may hear this and be saying, well, I'm not talking about a stranger. I know somebody who's a family member or a friend, and I still feel this way about them. Like, I don't know what to say to them because they don't let me into their world or something like that. I guess number one, I'd say don't give up, because I think once you kind of unlock that door, or, open the dam, or whatever you want to call it, a lot may come flooding out. You may really go from a position of feeling like I can't get to know this person to feeling like, oh, wow, I know so much about this person, and I never knew that they had all this to share. And, again, this is me just sort of, envisioning a scenario. Now, I don't know how much it's true about other composer people out there, but like I said, I have this feeling like it might be, because it has been for me. The people that I've had, the conversations where we've really started to get to know each other and it's taken a long time. It's not an overnight thing, always. It can seem like it sometimes, but, the coworker that I've talked to the most over the last few years, like I said, it's been a few years, And it's taken us a long time to kind of get to know each other, and to the point where, we feel comfortable sharing a lot of personal stuff. And so I'm not saying that any random person walks up to me on the street and starts asking me questions, I'm not going to feel comfortable opening up a lot about myself to just any random person out of nowhere. But someone who has any connection to me whatsoever already, it really doesn't take that much. You just have to be willing to, like I said, not give up. Number two, ask questions and be willing to actually listen to the answers. And to not be too delicate or too offended if a particular day or a particular time we don't feel like sharing something. Doesn't mean don't ever ask us again. Because I think that's the perception. I've a lot of the things I've read online from people who they post these kind of things of, here's my experience with my friend or my boyfriend or girlfriend or spouse or mother or whoever it is that's ISFP. They'll say, well, I asked them about such and such, and they said they don't want to talk about it. They imply that that was it. It was like, well, this happened, and then they wrote it off. I'm like, if you do that, then yeah, 95% of the time you're probably never going to get anywhere, because you have to be willing to kind of go back to it in a different way, and I think that's this whole typology thing, and the way that all this sort of comes together, is you have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone if you ever want to understand anybody who's not your type of people. If you ever want to make any kind of further connection or figure anything out, whether it's just from a practical sense of accomplishing something that you're trying to get done, like a coworker that you're trying to, have better chemistry with to accomplish a project, or, from everything from something where it's a business relationship to something where it's your lifelong, spouse or partner, if you want to ever reach that point, you have to be able to kind of step outside your own comfort zone and try to, as much as you can, kind of be in that other person's world. And you're never going to be able to do it completely, because you can't be in their mind and you can't think and feel the stuff that they do. And your instincts are going to be different. But you have to be willing to sort of try as best you can to go into that if you really want to accomplish that. And so I guess that's kind of what I'd say, wrapping this up here. It's specifically about ISFPs and composer types and artisans in general, really, is that a part of our identity, a big part of that, is our ability to kind of adapt and have variety and put our own stamp and our own mark on things, our own individual way of shaping something and creating things is big to us. And because we have that kind of mentality, if you want to get to know us better, you've kind of got to be willing to sort of do the same thing, and that you can't just approach it as, well, I want to know this person, so I'm going to interrogate them. Because, yeah, that gets old. After a few questions, it's like, what, am I on trial here? Am I on a stand? What's going on? And I think at my age, now, heading towards mid-30s, I guess, that I'm less offended by that sort of thing now. But, I mean, even 10 years ago, and especially, like, longer than that, I mean, that would have annoyed me greatly, and it would have made me kind of write off a person. I think I've become more tolerant, more understanding of people in terms of trying to do those sort of things now. But especially if you're dealing with a younger person, the things I see on forums where they're like, my 16-year-old ISFP son won't open up to me about, his girlfriend or school or what. And well, first of all, I think, good luck. But secondly, I think, well, of course. I mean, they're 16. 16-year-olds of any type don't want to open up about anything. I mean, when they do, it comes from this, like, angst point of view of, like, it's almost like it has to be squeezed out of them, you know, like, and usually it's very negative, like, oh, here's why everything is horrible, you know, in my life, and why everybody at school hates me, and they're all more popular than me, and what, you know, all these things that teenagers say. And so, especially when it comes to, you know, when you're dealing with an artisan teenager, then that's like the extreme of both worlds, because you've got not only basically artisans, we're the type that we're teenagers till we die, pretty much. So you're dealing with that, and then on top of that, you've got an introverted feeling artisan who's going to be the ones that are going to be the least wanting to open up, and the most like emotionally unstable. So I think that's probably the absolute worst combination in terms of having somebody that you're going to try to figure out when it comes to things. So when I say to people, you know, ultimately, you know, ISFP is like the best type of person, because, you know, we're not all up in your face. We're grounded in reality. You know, we're caring people, and we're adaptable and flexible. You know, so really that makes us the best. But it also makes us the worst, depending on the context. So anyway, I can admit my flaws and the negatives as well. So anyway, that concludes my dissection of the composer ISFP description in the book Please Understand Me Too by David Kersey. And I have more to talk about on this subject, and I will in future recordings, but I wanted to at least say I was finished with this one. And so I can say I accomplished something here. And I hope that anyone who listens to it will gain something from it. And once again, anyone who has any comments or questions to me that hears this in whatever place that I've put it, feel free to ask me, and it's not too hard to contact me, and feel free to ask me to clarify anything that you don't understand, or just to, you know, tell me that I'm off base on something, or whatever it is you want to do. But I hope you've enjoyed this, and that it's been enlightening and educational, and you know, as earth-shatteringly awesome as it could possibly have been. I know that tonight I will sleep well, having thought that I've now enlightened the world. So, good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.